One minute of a moment, so the moment you could that thing that you could come on bad time. Have you put it on? Aku ni please
no mataku.
You can believe.
Oh, mira, baba. Lo vivo morir. Yo. Yo.
Good morning, everywhere you are joining us across the world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to the 13th Annual National Conference of the School of Art and Social Sciences at the Yemi College of Education. And we are using this opportunity to tell you our theme for the year, Cracks in the Nigerian Nationhood, a multidimensional approach to mending its broken world. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, we welcome you. Today, this hour, we are beginning, today the 7th day of July 2021. We are beginning the program and we're welcoming people who are already online, joining us from every part of the world. Thank you very much for joining us at this time. There's going to be a wonderful discussion and a robust discussion, interaction at this conference this year. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to another annual conference. I want to welcome you to another great committee and discussion of colleagues and intellectuals across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. You are really, really welcome. Straight, we are moving to the opening prayer, and I am going to be welcoming the chairman of the National Planning Committee of this conference, the chairman of the local organizing committee of this conference, that is our dear own Dr. J.S. Ojewumi, as he gives us the opening prayer. Straight immediately after that, we'll be going on to the national anthem and the collect anthem before we begin to do other things. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Dr. J.S. Ojewumi as he gives us the opening prayer. Those of us who are here present in the control room, can we put our hands together, and wherever you are, give me also put your hands together.
Mighty God, we return all glory unto you for the grace of existence which you have bestowed upon our lives. thank you because you kept us since last year that we have this type of occasion, and you have brought us together to come and discuss issues related to matter of our nationhood at this critical time. Accept our praises in Jesus' name. As we go into the opening ceremony, we ask that your spirit will lead and guide us. As many people who are joining this opening ceremony across the world, we pray you will bestow upon us strength to participate effectively. And Lord, we pray specially for our lead paper presenter, that we grant him grace even to touch issues that will bring back restoration unto our nations. And Lord, at the end of this conference, we have every reason to give thanks unto you. For in Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Amen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reverend. Although we don't recognize the reverendship in this occasion, Reverend Ojewumi, thank you so much. Sorry, Venerable Ojewumi. Thank you very much. We are going straight to the national anthem and the college anthem. Shall we rise? Thank you very much, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. For those of us who are around, can we put our hands together for ourselves? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you once again to this annual national conference, the School of Art and Social Sciences Annual National Conference. The theme this year is Cracks in the Nigerian Nationhood, a multidimensional approach to mending its broken wall. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome the provost of the college, Dr. Sam Akintude, who is ably represented here by our own dear deputy provost, who incidentally is a member of the School of Art and Social Sciences, a member of staff in the School of Art and Social Sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the deputy provost, Dr. Bade Ikwejude. Thank you very much. I know by now the registrar should have joined us. That's our own dear registrar, Mrs. O. Fakorede, who will be joining us from our office. The librarian, Mr. Zino Akwekurere, who will be joining us from the library. The bossa, Mr. Abdul Ganiyu, who will also be joining us from his office. I know a number of deans and deans of schools and directors will also be hooking up. But just before I move on to introduce the lead paper presenter of today, I think I should go ahead and especially recognize my own dean, the Dean of the School of Art and Social Sciences. Incidentally, she happened to be the first female dean to head this school. I am talking about no other person, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. Ibidako. That's my dean. That's my dean. I call him Mama. Mama, you are welcome once again. Other deans from other schools, we have the dean from the School of Education, who incidentally is the national president of our own great union now, Kuasu. I'm talking about Dr. Smart Olubeko. I know he will be hooking up with us wherever he is presently. We have the dean of the School of Languages, who incidentally is also the chairman committee of deans. I am talking about Dr. Adeshuyan. We have in the house Dr. Anthony, who is also the acting dean, the School of Adult and Non-Formal Education. You're welcome, sir. We have the dean of the School of Science, that's Dr. M.O. Ojo, who is also going to be hooking up wherever he is presently. I know he's going to be joining us online. We have the other deans and directors. We have the director of linkages, who is also a member of staff in the School of Art and Social Sciences, an elder in this school for that matter. I'm talking about Dr. Ambrose Obanade. Thank you very much, sir. We have a lot of other people who are also represented here. I know many members of the academic board would have hooked up right now, joining us from different parts of the country or different parts of their offices. Thank you so much. While I'm appreciating members of crew from MIS, the people that made this place to be wonderful, I think I should go straight to introducing the lead paper presenter of today, our own dear daddy. I call him my Baba because he was already a senior lecturer in this place when I came to join the department as an undergraduate in 1990. I am talking about a distinguished colleague, a senior and a very, in fact, the most senior academic staff in this college at this time. I am talking about the lead paper presenter of today, Dr. Adegboyega Isaac Ajayi. You're welcome. We'll be hearing about the cracks in the Nigerian nationhood, and you're also going to be hearing about the various multi-dimensional approaches we're going to be using to mend the broken walls. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think if I cite any other dean or director elsewhere, I have a number of people in the house that I think I should also recognize. I have the chairman of the local organizing committee, who is in the house, the man that gave us the open prayer, Dr. J.S. Ojewumi. We have my vice dean. Can somebody join me anywhere you are in the world to say my vice dean? That is Alhaji Zubar. Alhaji Zubar is also the chief imam of the college mosque. Thank you for your welcome, sir. I can cite in the house Dr. A.T. Adeneka. You're welcome, sir. He's very, very senior colleague in the Department of Social Studies of this college. I have Dr. Biodun Ajayi, who is also in the house. He has been a member and secretary and protocol officer of the National Local Organizing Committee in the past. I have, I think I was looking at the woman in this place before. That's Dr. Mrs. Ajibefun. I am looking at somebody somewhere here representing the Department of Geography, Dr. Aki Yombo. He is the protocol officer of the Local Organizing Committee. I can also see the secretary of the Local Organizing Committee, that's Mr. Ike or Denny. So Denny, you are welcome. And we have Mr. Harry or Naputi, who is also the PRO of the Conference Local Organizing Committee. Mr. Jibefun is just coming in. That's Dr. Mrs. Jibefun. He is in the Department of Social Studies. We have Mr. Hope Adebile, who is also a member of the Conference Planning Committee. And we have another member who is Ms. Okoli Chisholm. You're welcome, every other person in the house. I think I cited Mr. Babatunde Folajimi in the house earlier from the Department of History, and a number of other people who are working as part of the crew to make this program wonderful. Thank you so much. The director of MIS and the crew that followed him. I am talking about Dr. Adeneka. Dr. Kenny Adeneka. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Those are the people that are making you to hear us and to see us wherever you are present across the world. Thank you so much, everybody here present. As I cite you again, I'm going to be identifying or recognizing you quickly so that we are going to be working within the time frame allotted for this opening ceremony. I will welcome the chairman of the local organizing committee, the national planning committee of this conference. I am talking about the chairman, Dr. J.S. or Jewumi, to present the welcome address.
Host, Dr. S. today, ably represented by the Deputy Provost, Dr. Akibade, Principal Officers of the College, distinguished lead paper presenter, our father, Dr. A. Ajayi, my dean, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. Ibidako, other deans and directors, members of the college academic board, distinguished senior colleagues, non-academic staff and students of the School of Art and Social Sciences, conference participants, the technical crew from MIS, great applicants, ladies and gentlemen. With great pleasure, I welcome you all to this unique event of the 13th annual conference of the School of Art and Social Sciences at the Emi College of Education, Ondo. This year's conference is expected to deliberate and discuss on issues challenging the nationhood of Nigeria. The theme, cracks in the Nigerian nationhood, the multi-dimensional approach to mending the broken walls, was particularly chosen with the view of advancing suggestions on the way forward for the country Nigeria. I give glory to God for this great privilege He has given us to witness another edition of this annual conference, which is virtually done this year like that of last year. I would like to use this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the Provost, Chief Host of this conference, Dr. S.A. Akintunde, for his unflinching support, motivation, and financial commitment towards the success of this conference. Sir, may God Almighty continue to strengthen and bless your effort. Special thanks go to the Dean, School of Art and Social Sciences, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. Ibidako, for the confidence reposed in us, for giving us the opportunity to serve. Our consistent advice and suggestions to ensure a successful conference is appreciated. The assistance and support of the past deans of the school and past chairmen of the conference committee are acknowledged and appreciated. May God bless you all. I also welcome our father, the lead paper presenter, Dr. Adegboyega Isaac Ajayi, an erudite scholar, a historian par excellence, a mentor worthy of emulation, a builder of lives and destinies, an astute administrator. Sir, your presence is highly appreciated. I also want to appreciate members of the conference committee for their commitment and support at all times. My profound gratitude also goes to the technical crew of the Management Information System, MIS, for their technical support in ensuring that this online conference becomes a success. Conference participants are warmly welcome. Certainly, your intellectual contributions in this online conference will give it the necessary vibrancy. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to a conference that promises to be an outstanding in all ramifications. Happy deliberation, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome once again. And straightforward, we are going on to the next item on the program. But just before we go to the next item, I cited Dr. T.A. Ekundayo. who just walked in, is the Director of College Support Services, Directorate of College Support Services. You're welcome, sir. I'm bringing up my own dear provost. They'll be represented by the deputy provost of the college. Sorry. I think I should bring on my dean first. My team should come forward first to give us the welcome address. The Dean of the School of Art and Social Sciences. Like I said earlier, the first female dean of the school. I am talking about Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. Ibida. For those of us here present, and any one of us everywhere we are, can we put our hands together for my dean, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K.
Welcome address delivered by the Dean, School of Arts and Social Sciences, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. Ibida, at the opening ceremony of the 13th Annual National Conference on today, Wednesday, 7th of July, 2021. The Provost, sir, Principal Officers of the College, distinguished paper presenter, the Deputy Provost, on his own account, all deans and directors present, members of the academic board here present, heads of various departments, distinguished colleagues, invited guests, conference participants, our dear students, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Sincerely, I thank God Almighty for a day like this, to stand before this esteemed audience to deliver this welcome address on the occasion of the opening ceremony of the 13th Annual National Conference as the Dean of the School of Arts and Social Sciences. In fact, the Dean of the Provost and the Deputy Provost, and many directors. I consider this a rare privilege, hence I do not take it for granted. I want to warmly welcome you all to the annual conference of our school, both those attending physically and those participating via Zoom platform. In the same vein, let me especially welcome and appreciate the Provost and his management team for honoring our invitation and for the good work which is conspicuously visible around the college. God will honor you. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome the new paper presenter, Dr. Gaja, a seasoned teacher and administrator, and my mentor too, for excellence, former deputy provost and former member of Abiyahu College of Education, Governing Council. Thank you, sir, for coming. The way you have honored us, God will honor you. For accepting to deliver the lead paper of this year's conference called Cracks in the Nigerian Nation, a multidisciplinary approach to mending its broken world. The theme for this year's conference is very apt, as there are a lot of cracks the deviling Nigerian nation, and I have no doubt in my heart that the lead paper presenter will do justice to it, considering his vast wealth of teaching and research experience. Let me seize this opportunity to thank the chairman, Dr. J.S. Odewu, and members of the local organizing committee for the real and zeal and efforts towards the achievement of this great feat today. I wish also to thank all subcommittee members for their continued support to making today a reality. To all conference participants, I warmly welcome you all to this year's conference. As you are aware, Nigeria remains the populous country in Africa, but the devil with a lot of cracks threatening their existence. These issues include unemployment, insecurity, challenges, economic diversification, ethnicity, agitation for secession, herdsmen, farmers' challenge, banditry and kidnapping, human rights abuse, among others. It is against this background that this year's conference intends to provide a platform for scholars, academics, technocrats, leaders, and policymakers for a scholastic discourse and interaction in all the areas of the sub-themes in order to to offer workable solutions to mend these noted cracks that contribute to strengthen our national unity and nationhood. To all the chairmen and members of the newly constituted committees of the school, this is a clarion call. Please, let's keep the ball rolling to deliver on each of the specific mandates of the various committees. We have done it before. I believe we can do it again. Let me quickly mention, without mincing words, that the Welfare Committee is fully ready to serve us like never before. Above all, I thank all of the confidence reposed on me to serve you in this capacity as the Dean of the School of the Provost and the Deputy Provost in a time like this. What a privilege. Thank you so much. God bless the School of Arts and Social Sciences. God bless Adeyemi College of Education, and God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
That's my dean. That's my dean, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. My dean. Wonderful presentation. And we know, like I described it, a clarion call. That's our expectation. And we will all be able to make our contributions to the school of art and social sciences and the nation at large. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And straight away, I think I should begin to think of bringing in my provost, ably represented by the deputy provost, Dr. Bade Ikwe, for the provost speech. My provost, sir, you're welcome, sir.
Let me begin by especially give glory to the Almighty God for giving us the privilege to be alive, even to see this day. I remember some years ago, we played an active role in this school, especially when I served as vice dean and later the dean of the school. This is back home, this conference. We want to celebrate the dean and all other HODs in the school. Also, the organizing committee for this conference to allow conference to continue this particular school, not stop. We have to applaud that. Management is committed to the development of this school. In fact, we have put the school in the next plan for the 5 years strategic plan for this institution. With God on our support, definitely we are going to have a complex. Complex that will house all the departments, lecture theaters, classroom. I will go straight to read the Provost speech. The speech delivered by the Provost, Dr. Samuel Akitube, at the opening ceremony of the 13th Annual National Conference of the School of Art and Social Sciences at the Adeyemi College of Education, held on Wednesday, 17th July, 2021, at 10 a.m. I am highly elated to welcome you all to the 13th Annual National Conference of the School of Art and Social Science of this great institution. I give glory to God for making this year national conference a reality. May His grace and mercy continue to be a driving force in our academic pursuit. Permit me, ladies and gentlemen, to specially welcome our lead paper presenter, Dr. Boyega Ajayi, a seasoned academic, a great scholar, associate administrator, and tutor of tutors. Dr. Boyega Ajayi is a renowned historian who parades an intimidating credential, which no doubt justifies his choice by the organizer of this year's conference. We are proud to be associated with your monumental achievements. It is my pleasure to extend my sincere congratulations to the first female dean of the School of Art and Social Sciences, Dr. Mrs. C.O.K. Bidapo, for organizing a befitting conference for the School of Art and Social Sciences. Permit me to commend the hard work of the local organizing committee of the conference under the able leadership of Dr. J.S. Ojewu. I appreciate you all for sustaining the tradition of academic excellence in the school. The theme of this year's conference, Cracks in the Nigerian Nationhood, a multidimensional approach to mending its broken world, is not only commendable but also timely because it will provide direction and solution to address the challenges of the 21st century. The charge of insecurity and it is added manifestation in terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, militancy, fractures in our ethnic cohesion, and all other vices that are detrimental to the expectations of nation's founding father must be checkmate using our academic period as scholars in our different areas of specializations. I am convinced that this conference will provide a robust platform for scholars, researchers, and administrators to exchange notes and provide a dependable solution to the crack in the wall of our nation. There's no doubt that this is the appropriate platform for scholars and researchers to critically examine the crack in the Nigerian nationhood. This year conference parades competent scholars who are well equipped to present papers relating to the challenges of the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, I am optimistic that this year conference will be worthwhile adventure to all our conference participants and the organizer. I wish you successful deliberation and safe trip back to our destination. Once again, I welcome you all to this conference. At this point, it is my pleasure and honor to declare the 13th annual conference of the School of Art and Social Sciences open. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, and we appreciate you for that wonderful presentation. Really appreciate it. That's my deputy group. We are reaching the climax of the program because very soon we are going to be bringing up the liberal presenter, our own dear Dr. Adeboyega Isaac Ajayi. So I've been saddled with this enormous responsibility of presenting a citation. May I request my daddy, my academic mentor, Dr. Adeboyega Isaac Ajayi, to step forward and stand beside this small boy who will be presenting his citation. Maybe I will be keeping you standing for the next 7 to 10 minutes because I've made several efforts to reduce almost a 70 pages of CV to about 8 or 9. I tried. I think I deserve an applause too. Not skip the protocol. The provost at the Emi College of Education, who happened to be the chief host of this conference, Dr. Sam Akintunde, the deputy provost, Dr. Bade Kwek, the registrar, Mrs. O.O. Fakolede, the librarian, Mr. Zino Akokurere, the bossa, Mr. Ganiyu Abdul, the dean of the School of Art and my dean, the dean of the School of Art and Social Sciences, Dr. and Mrs. C.O.K. Ibidapo, other deans from other schools and directors within the college, members of the academic board, distinguished colleagues, both senior and junior, conference participants, the technical crew from AMIS, and ACTV, members of the press, great Nigerian students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by giving a short introduction. Because when you are given an assignment that is as magnanimous and big as this, you'll be wondering how you are going to start. But I think Adeboyega Isaac Ajayi occupies a unique and significant place in the pantheon of historical scholarship, especially in Nigeria. He is a remarkable genius who has distinguished himself in several areas, most especially as a great teacher, a seasoned administrator, a great academic mentor to countless number of students, both undergraduate and postgraduate. Before venturing into his engagement with the world of historical scholarship, let me briefly provide an account of his early background so that you will capture the man I'm presenting for you. So I talk about his birth, his childhood, and his early education. Dr. Adeboyega Isaac Ajayi was born on the 2nd of January 1957, a day after the New Year celebration at Ayekule Ekiti, in the then Ekiti division, now Ekiti State of southwestern Nigeria. He is the third child in the family branch of 4 children, 2 males and 2 females, and the only surviving male bearing as of today. Adeboyega Isaac Ajayi has been preserved like that by God, probably for a purpose, and I think this is one of it. Adeboyega first started his primary education, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at Methodist Primary School, Ifaki Ekiti. That was in 1962. And due to the relocation of his parents from Ifaki Ekiti to Ido Ekiti in 1964, Adeboyega was forced to change his primary school to Ido Ekiti, where he later completed his primary education in the year 1967. Adeboyega proceeded to Doherty Memorial Grammar School in Ijero Ekiti between 1968 and 1972. He began his education in the science class, offering subjects like chemistry, mathematics, biology, economics, and history. He enrolled for his higher school certificate, what we call HSC in those days. After some time, Adeboyega left and decided to enroll for West African Examination Certificate, WASC. And he had to re-register at this time for hard subjects at AUD Grammar School in Kariakoko, Ondo State, in the year 1977. He sat for the exam and had an outstanding result, which was the first of such results in the school at that time, because he made grade 1 distinction. Adeboyega Isaac, permit me to describe him as a trailblazer. Let me quickly move to his tertiary education. Desirous of seeking greater laurels in academics and eager to climb the social ladder that tertiary education would offer, Adeboyega Ajayi sat for and passed exams of different universities, because in those days you sit for universities admission that you desire. So he notably sat for and passed the examination to the then University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. And that was the university to first offer him admission. He also sat for the exam to the University of Ibadan, that's the premier university at Ibadan, University of Benin, Uniben, and the University of Calabar. Adeboyega in 1977 decided to accept the offer of the University of Benin, and that was because he wanted to stay far away from home. At Uniben, he studied for BA History and performed excellently well in his studies, to the extent that during the 1980 university convocation, the then president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, presented him the University Award of Excellence because he remarked the overall best during the 1979-1980 academic session. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, after the youth service, because Ajayi was bent on greater academic laurel, Adeboyega decided to apply for his Master of Arts in History at the University of Ife. Don't forget, I earlier told you, that is what we call Obafemi University today. He completed his program in 1985. Adeboyega's passion for higher education led him to apply for a PhD program in 1995 at the University of Ibadan. Now, may I tell you, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, that Adeboyega has gone to the University of Benin. He has also attended the University of Ife and now to the University of Ibadan for his PhD at Ibadan. Adegboyega decided to deviate from history of foreign policy to civil military history as a result of the influence and encouragement received from another distinguished professor of history, Professor Toyin Falola, and he completed the program in the year 2002. In order to be recognized as a professional teacher, Adegboyega applied for postgraduate diploma in education at Obafemi Awolowo University again. And in the year 1998, he began the program, which he completed in the year 2000. Let me talk briefly about his teaching career. Ladies and gentlemen, Adegboyega had his entire working career within the academic setting, aside from the initial teaching appointment at the secondary school after his higher school certificate. He taught briefly at two secondary schools before this time. First, in March 1986, Adegboyega was appointed as an assistant lecturer in the Department of History of this great citadel of Nani at the Yemi College of Education, Ondo State, where he rose to the rank of a chief lecturer in the year 2001. That was more than 20 years ago. He has equally taught in several universities in the country. I will just mention a few. First, between the year 2001 and 2002, he was a part-time lecturer in the Department of History of Obafemi Awolowo University, Ileshe. Second, he was a visiting senior lecturer at the Department of History and International Studies at Adekunle Ajasin University at Akoko, Ondo State, between the year 2002 and 2003. Again, in the same university, during the 2003-2004 academic session, he was appointed adjunct senior lecturer. Third, Adegboyega Isaac Ajayi, during the 2013-2014 academic session, utilized his sabbatical leave as an associate professor of history at the Department of History and International Studies, Joseph Ayo University, Jabu, Ikeji, Osun State. Fourth, he was appointed a reader and associate professor at the Department of History and International Studies, McPherson University, Sheriki Sotayo, Ogun State, where he spent his life. And fifthly, between 2014 and 2016, he was a visiting associate professor of history in the Department of History and International Relations, Elizabeth University, Ilaramokin, Ondo State. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, if you are talking about the liberal presenter of today, you will know I'm talking about a person that is of importance. After this, he reverted back to the Department of History at the Yemi College of Education. Let me talk briefly about his scholarship in community service. This is almost endless. I saw about 12 pages of this, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen who are listening to me in all part of the world, Adegboyega Isaac Ajayi has had and is still having a remarkable standing in the world of academic scholarship, wherein he has authored and edited many books. In summary, let me just give a brief highlight. He has authored 4 books, he has edited 8 books, and contributed 21 chapters in both books. He has also published several articles in both foreign and local academic journals. As at the last count, Adegboyega had 35 journal articles, and some of his publications are currently in press and forthcoming. Adegboyega has attended and presented papers in several national and international conferences in Nigeria, across Africa, in Latin America, and the USA and Europe. He has served as both lead paper, presenter, and participant in all of these that I've mentioned above. Adegboyega is a member of many professional bodies, both within and outside Nigeria. Notable among these, I'm going to summarize and mention a few. He's a member of the distinguished and prestigious Historical Society of Nigeria. He's a member of the Network of Nigerian Historians. He's a member of American Studies Association. He's a member of the Teachers Education Council of Nigeria. He's a member of Nigeria Cultural Studies Network. He's a member of the International Standing Conference for History of Education, and is also a member of International Society for Development and Sustainability. That is based in Japan. In the area of community service, the contributions of Adegboyega could be seen at a national, state, and local level within academic circle. And he has served and is still serving in different capacities, such as one, he was a foundation member of the Ondo Study Group founded in 1986, Ondo State Hospital Management Board 1992 to 1993, Change Collective, a social intellectual outfit committed to the upliftment of Nigeria, Ekiti Progressive, a social intellectual development group, Police Community Relations Committee Ondo chapter between 2006 and 2010. He was the zonal coordinator along the Land Association Basiri Quarter, Ado Ekiti, where he had one of his houses. Coordinator of JAM, UTME MPC from 2006 to 2009. Coordinator of UTME Ondo Zone from 2010 to 2011. Monitoring officer for NECO, Ondo State 2008 to 2013. Member, visitation panel to Ruboskia Polytechnic of Ondo State in the year 2009. I still have about 15. I think I have to skip this place. Ajayi stint in administration. Ajayi stint in administration. The contribution of Adeboyega Ajayi within the academic community cannot be overemphasized. His leadership within the academic community is a monumental contribution to humanity. At Adeyemi College of Education, he has served and is still serving in different capacities. The Department of Social Studies when it was established between 1996 and 1998. He was the vice dean, School of Art and Social Sciences, first in the year 2002 and second again in the year 2006. He was chairman of several committees such as the School of Art and Social Sciences, College Interview Panels for Junior Staff, College Palliative Committee, College Accreditation Committee, Housing and Space Allocation Committee, Business Committee of Academic Board, Board of Directors, and several other ones. Members of several committees at the Department of History at the Adeyemi College of Education. My HOD is online. You can Google and find out what I'm saying. While he was the pioneer director of ventures and linkages, in fact, he chartered the course for that directorate to be established. Editor and editorial consultant for several journals. Members, Governing Council of Adeyemi College of Education between the year 2007 and 2011. And he was the deputy provost of this college between 2006 and 2010. He was a member of the Project Monitoring Committee and chairman, Senate Business Committee. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Adeboyega is a taskmaster. And I think I should tell you this. When he taught me in 1990, we used to call him Moyo of Africa. When he speaks, you know a military man is speaking. He ended up with the military issue. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this philosophy about leadership, position, spiritualism, and humanity, as well as accomplishment of organizational goals. He believes in transnational leadership style of administration. Let me describe or talk a bit about Adeboyega Ajayi as a mentor. Having served in various institutions of higher learning in Nigeria and beyond, it is only natural that Adeboyega Ajayi would have mentored generation of students about within these 33 years of his sojourn in the academy. He has mentored a number of students who today are distinguished in their different fields of human endeavors. In the academic circle, for instance, some of those who he mentored are lecturers in tertiary institutions across Nigeria, outside the Adeyemi College of Education, Ondo, notably among those who were former students of Adeboyega Ajayi at undergraduate and postgraduate level, but today are lecturers in different parts of the country. I will need the permission of my dean to mention a few. The immediate past provost of this college, Professor Olukoya again of the Department of History and International Studies from Osun State University. Professor Olukoya again was the provost of this college between 2014 and 2018. And in fact, he handed over to the current provost, Professor Abimbola Adesoji, who is also a lecturer at the Department of History of Obafemi University. The current head of the Department of History of Obafemi University, Dr. Solomon Tai Okajare, happened to be one of his projects. We have a lot of them across. We have Dr. Adidayo Afe, we have Dr. KB Olubemi. All of those are senior and quality professors now at Atumba, Akoko, Adekunle Ajasin University. We have a lot of them across Nigeria. We have Adesola Adesoteya, who also holds a PhD and is presently at Osun State University. We have Oyewale Peter, who is also a doctor now at Ekiti State University. And within Adeyemi College of Education, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this man here taught the current provost, Dr. Samuel Akintunde, the provost of this college. Among his students, I'm proud to announce that I'm one. And we have a lot of other doctors. In fact, in the Department of History, he has taught virtually all the lecturers. Permit me to quickly talk about Ajayi in the hands of his wife and children. He's a peaceful, let me say, a peaceful, settled, and happy marriage is one of the major factors that contributed immensely to Dr. Ajayi's exemplary life and career fulfillment. This family I'm talking about is fulfilled. In fact, from all indications, Dr. Adeboye Ajayi might never have made the kind of indelible mark he has made in his academic career without the love, support, and encouragement from his immediate family, especially his wife, Mrs. Caroline Olumuyiwa Ajayi ní Akinsanya. Caroline Akinsanya is a retired nurse from the General Hospital, now General Clinical Hospital in Ekiti. And until her retirement, she was the head of nursing department at the hospital. At the moment, after a long stint at Ekiti, she is now settled fully beside her truck. The marriage is blessed with three outstanding male children, namely Adewonu Ala Adeyinka and Akitobi. I call him Baba and boys. Honor and distinction. Let me just mention a few. Diligence, commitment, dedication, and devotion to the type, to duty. The type associated with Adeboye Ajayi are bound to produce or to attract several honors and distinctions. Right from his undergraduate days, Adeboye Ajayi had begun to win awards of excellence. For instance, 1978-80 academic session, Adeboye Ajayi received the University Award of Best Overall Performance in History. In the year 2005 and 2006, he received a letter of commendation, and that is very rare. He received a letter of commendation from the Governing Council of Adeyemi College of Education. In 2008, he succeeded in attracting financial grant and support from CBAC for the hosting of a collaborative international conference for Adeyemi College of Education between 1st and 4th of December 2008 on the theme Oral Tradition and African Culture. And the conference, which was a great success, resulted in the production of a book, Oral Tradition in Black and African Culture. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me move to presentation. I'm skipping 2 more pages. Indeed, the life and career of Dr. Ajayi is worthy of emulation. The story of the life and career of Adeboye Ajayi, as encapsulated in this brief profile, teaches several lessons of perseverance, judgment, determination, diligence, discipline, hard work, faithfulness, and humility. I would have requested for a cup of water to continue. He has actually lived a fulfilled life as attested to by the successes his biological and academic sons and daughters have attained in his lifetime. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, can we rise wherever we are across the world with a great applause?
Cracks in the Nigerian nation. A multi-dimensional approach to mending is broken. Protocols. Provosts and other principal officers here present. Chairman of this occasion, deans and directors, heads of departments, invited guests, conference participants, gentlemen of the press, including my Honorable IMRS team, great Nigerian students. I feel highly honored to be the lead paper presenter. Highly esteemed School of Arts and Social Sciences, to which I belong for more than 3 decades now. The theme of the conference is quite exciting to me, not only because it promises to address the burning issues of our time, but it also overlaps substantially with large areas of my research efforts over the years. It therefore affords me a veritable avenue to pontificate as well as clear a path for robust discussion of the theme and sub-themes in the proposed paper presentations at the designated parties. Preamble. A perfunctory glance at the theme of this year's conference, and which I have adopted as the title of my paper as deemed fit, could inadvertently create the impression that Nigerian nation as presently constituted has cracks that are easily amenable to repair or mending. Obviously, the choice of the theme must have been informed by what I can call gratuitous optimism in the potential for survival of the nation if some remedial measures are put in place. This implicitly suggests a kind of quick fix, but it must be starkly stated that Nigeria's problems are so fundamental and complicated, such that it will require drastic surgical exercises to either sustain it somehow or have it balkanized, as it happened with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR, Yugoslavia, and Czechoslovakia in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I want to believe, and sincerely too, that the organizers of this conference deliberately referred to the fundamental issues, which I will espouse later, as cracks, in order not to further heat up a polity that is already a boiling cauldron, itching to spill over at any time. Succinctly put, the Nigerian nation created by colonial masters in 1914 has since then been subjected to several impious experimentations that has now resulted in its being uncomfortably ensconced between state capture and failed state, as brilliantly enunciated by Biodun J.E.F.O. 2021. Before dwelling extensively on J.E.F.O.'s explication of state capture and failed state, permit me to hint that the Nigerian model of nation is far from the ideal, totally far from the ideal. In the least, a nation encompasses a people in a large territory with commonality in language, historical ancestry, and cultural attributes, who consciously identify themselves as belonging to such geopolitics and freely share the bond of affinity. What is state capture and what is a failed state? In simple terms, J.E.F.O. 2021 describes state capture as a situation in which either, and I quote, in which either the entire state or governance operators of the country and or powerful regulatory agencies within the state have been so co-opted to serve the legal and corrupt interests of segments of political and economic elites. End quote. And in summative discourse of a failed state, and I quote, as the striking inability of a central government to exercise control and authority over both the territorial boundaries of the state and large internal areas of the country speaks to extant realities in Nigeria. Since there are unoccupied spaces where non-state actors hold sway, thereby challenging the authority and power of the central state, it is to be expected that there will be banditry, insurrection, insecurity of life and property, restriction of movements, and collapse of economic endeavors, all of which are symptomatic of a failing or failed state. The dialectic between state capture and failed state is well captured by J.E.F.O. 2021 when he affirmed that, and I quote, there is no failed state in Africa, or indeed in the world, in which state capture did not, the road did not, and I quoted it there, did not precede or enable the descent into a failed state. In other words, there is a symbiotic relationship between state capture and failed state. State capture leading to failed state, if not corrected in total. I'm in total agreement with him that Nigeria presently is hovering at the edge of a full-blown descent, and that this unwarranted and unavoidable predicament cannot be successfully overcome without dealing with the scourge of state capture in all its manifestations. It is my fervent hope that the outcome of this conference will go some way in providing credible and practicable solutions. Emphasis on credible and practical. Having cleared the underbrush, I can now proceed to the main task of concretely identifying the cracks in Nigeria's nationhood and leveraging on an historical perspective to discuss remedial measures against the background established in the foregoing preamble. But first, in what ways and manner did Nigeria emerge as a nation? Who were the promoters of the Nigerian project? And towards which end? What was the role of the people in the exercise? And was a nation properly so-called established consensually? These and some pertinent inferences will engage my attention in the introductory section of this paper. Introduction, theories, practices, and realities. Diverse peoples around the River Niger with differing ethno-cultural backgrounds, languages, and religious inclinations were forcefully bunched together after their piecemeal conquest by a predatory colonial master in 1914, mainly for administrative convenience, driven by economic expediency. The peoples were neither consulted nor their feelings ascertained before embarking on this inglorious exercise. It was really a supremely arrogant, forceful imposition. It has been argued elsewhere that, incidentally, that I did that, but I'm quoting now. The creation of modern states by force is not peculiar to Nigeria, historically. Many modern states, including Britain in the 11th century, Italy and Germany in the second half of the 19th century, emerged from the traditions of force. That's Ajayi 2014. But it should be noted that while these countries have achieved high levels of integration, Nigeria is yet to do so because of colonial economic interests and post-colonial leadership failures. Ordinarily, ethnic and religious diversities are not necessarily divisive forces. In fact, as the case of the United States of America has shown, if well managed, they could actually be useful instruments in forging sustainable unity in diversity. Unfortunately, the situation in Nigeria since independence has been the manipulation of ethno-religious fault lines for political and economic gains by self-seeking parochial and inept leaders, and this has made building unity a Herculean task. Perhaps this should be expected, given the initial disposition of the political elites to the amalgamation exercise during the colonial period, and their subsequent moves to protect their ethnic or regional interests. It can be recalled that Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who was to become the opposition leader in the First Republic, pointedly declared in 1947 that, and I quote, Nigeria is not a nation, it is a mere geographical expression. Thank you. And in 1948, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, who became Prime Minister at independence, had declared on the floor of the Legislative Council that since 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. But the Nigerian people themselves are historically different in their backgrounds, in their religious beliefs and customs, and do not show themselves any sign of willingness to unite. Nigerian unity is only a British intention for the country. Thank you. Awolowo and Balewa were also joined by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, President and Head of State at Independence, in casting aspersion on the 1914 amalgamation exercise, which brought together strange bedfellows. Given this high level of trust deficit in the political contraption called Nigeria, that these areas around the River Niger, that's how Nigeria came. One would have expected the emerging leaders to have put together a conference of the nationalities, making up the nation, to agree on the way forward. This would have gone a long way in ameliorating the major groups against the amalgamation exercise, widely viewed as a unilaterally enforced view. But they continue paying lip service to the despised nation while working covertly and overtly to service their parochial interests. Elections became acrimonious and a do or die affair because of their winner-takes-all disposition. The point that is being underscored here is the amalgamation, as repugnant as it was, is not necessarily the problem. It was the way its outcome was managed, beginning with the corrosive divide and rule tactics of colonial administration, up to the subnational disposition of emergent post-independence leaders, civilians, and militaries that has turned diversity into divisiveness over the years. Thus, the cracks that are to be interrogated in this conference have always been there from day one. That is from 1942. They have been widely progressively up to a point now that the reality of a failed nation is being tangibly felt. At this junction, we need to have a good understanding of concepts like national integration, nation building, and nation as templates for ascertaining the efforts of political actors in Nigeria in the drive or lack of it towards concretizing Nigeria's nation. In extant literature, there are three theories that will help in understanding national integration in a diverse country like Nigeria. These are structural functionalism, conflict, and relational theory. But first, we need to understand and appreciate what integration means. On a general note, integration simply means putting together of the parts of a system seamlessly to constitute a whole. In other words, bringing together of different, seemingly unrelated things to forge something wholesome, a kind of interlocution. With reference to a polity, it refers to a process whereby political actors in several distinct settings are encouraged and persuaded not to ask, that is not forced, to shift their loyalties, expectations, and political activities towards a central authority. In this kind of situation, cooperation, interdependence, mutual respect, equality, merit, and justice are key in sustaining the contrived union. It is these attributes that will make all the peoples of the component parts of the nation to see themselves as belonging to the nation, thereby willingly sharing common. I now proceed to discuss those theories that could facilitate or militate against integration in a diverse nation like Nigeria, depending on how integration. When the lopsided federal structure that makes the center stronger and preponderant over the constituent states so groups comes into the picture, the situation breeds intense acrimony and alienation. The point that is being emphasized here is that it is the human factor as represented by leaders, in this case, that makes structures to function in the nation's interest. Functions don't function on their own. We need the human element as personified by leaders to make structures function in a positive or negative manner. When structures are well managed in the national interest, diversity could be a strong instrument of unity. In this case, the example of the United States of America comes to mind again. Here, small states like Arkansas, Kansas, and Mississippi coexist in coordinate and not feckless relationship with big and powerful states like Texas and California. It is instructive to know that the small state of Arkansas produced Bill Clinton as president. It's the smallest state in America. In the case of Nigeria, the ascendancy of President Goodluck, because when I talk of this now, you'll be thinking that she be a minority at the time became president here. That's why I'm putting this corollary. The ascendancy of President Goodluck Jonathan from a minority group of states to the pinnacle of power was partly accidental and more or less a stopgap short-term strategy of political power control before state capture ensued. Diverse nations without transparent inclusiveness breeds exclusive national identities, are less integrated, and so more susceptible to balkanization or breakdown. Thus, as the Nigerian scenario depicts presently, a sectional hegemonic usurpation of power and positions in a multi-ethnic nation translates into ethnic and regional alienation, making the central government irrelevant, thereby nurturing secessionist tendencies, divisive thoughts, and hateful rhetoric. The situation is often compounded by the refusal of the state capitals to feed the pulse of their aggrieved or listen to responsible public opinion and adjust accordingly. Indeed, it is a universal practice among such state capitals to deploy state instruments of coercion and architecture of propaganda to suppress every manifestation of public opinion by intimidating the populace like civil society, pressure groups, and individual social crusading activists. Greed, parochialism, and self-centeredness usually blind them to the reality of the deleterious impact of their power grab on the corporate existence of the nation. Subnational military cabals held sway for a reasonable length of time when the country was forcefully held together, thereby creating a mistaken impression of unity. Even with the advent of democracy and the convocation of national conferences to chart sustainable paths of progress for the nation in its diverse form, the situation has remained virtually the same as a result of the blatant refusal of the leaders to alter their style and proclivity in the nation's overall interest. Without doubt, there is no nation that is perfect. Let us get that on straight. And completely devoid of conflicts. Conflicts is part of human existence. It is management that is the issue. Misunderstandings and dissension. It is how these are managed by the leaders that matters. This leads us to a brief discussion of conflict theory as propounded by theorists like Marx, Max Weber, Wright Mills, Ralph Dendorf, which can be summarized as follows. Society is held together and so integrated by enforced constraint. In simple terms, some political units in a multi-ethnic nation should have delegated power and authority over others. The implication of this is that the differential distribution of power, authority, position, commonwealth invariably becomes the determining factor of systematic social conflicts. Conflict theories further argue that for a nation to be properly integrated, stakeholders must give strong consideration to the material and resource arrangements that affects interaction. In short, the unquestionable dominance of some groups in a multi-group setting and unjust and discriminatory allocation of resources cannot augur well for sustainable integration because of the crisis-laden situation it will provoke. The breakup of either two massive societies or nations like USSR, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and Sudan, is an eloquent testimony to this eventuality. Regrettably, Nigeria's situation presently is gradually tilting towards this scenario. Regionally based ethnic militias, pressure groups, and non-governmental organizations have been proliferating since 1919, when the overarching military political adventurers relinquished power. They have been using different tactics and strategies to address perceived injustice, marginalization, preferential treatments of some privileged groups, and unjust resource allocation within the century's federal arrangement operating in Nigeria, since the military's incursion into politics in 1966. While some have been agitating for restructuring of the nation to curb perceived lopsided political arrangement as well as revenue allocation formula, some others are clamoring for secession. Government high-handedness and recalcitrant disposition towards the various agitations have been compounding the crisis situations, thereby strengthening filial sectional affiliations at the expense of the nation. Consensual values are being rapidly eroded, making minor conflicts to escalate unnecessarily. especially between the underprivileged and the privileged, indigenous and settlers, Fulani herdsmen, and farmers. Whereas in the United Kingdom, Nigeria's former colonial master, constituent nation states, I put that in quote, like Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, enjoy large measure of autonomy, regional autonomy, even while the English dominates national politics. We cannot rule that one out. The four ethnic groups rotate the example of Switzerland is even more striking in terms of the new attempts at integration. In Switzerland, the four ethnic groups rotate the presidency through 7 cantons, 7 regions that makes up the federation. Even Canada, and I will speak more of Canada, even Canada that has 7 English-speaking provinces and only 2 French-speaking territories, decided to be bilingual while also permitting provisional autonomy to a large extent. I received on good authority again. Somebody read through the draft of this thing and sent in certain things from me from Canada, which I want to share. In specific terms, now, before I continue, the regional premiers that is in Canada, the regional premiers in Canada are equal to the federal prime minister, and they run their provinces like independent countries. Full jurisdiction over health, education, shared jurisdiction with federal center over immigration, agriculture, and trade. Even the indigenous people, the autonomous people in Canada, living in the reserves, also have their own governments, with tribes having a band chief and a council of councillors. Canada, you will want to know, is the second biggest nation in the whole world and a highly diversified country, and is run effectively because of high decentralization. High emphasis of high decentralization of power. Without doubt, these measures adopted by the identified countries have been assisting them profoundly in sustaining mutually beneficial relations in the service of integration and nation building. This leads us to a discussion of the relational theory. In simple terms, relational theory forces that when there are equitable distribution of commonwealth, justice, and fairness in a plural society, the chances of broadening and deepening integration are boosted. Meanwhile, economic interactions in this setting helps to shape their aspects of life, vocations, and dispositions of constituent groups. The corollary is that a situation in which socio-economic arrangement is skewed against a group of groups while favoring another will definitely vitiate the possibility of sustaining integration. However, there could be forceful holding together of diverse groups as experienced in Nigeria under colonial rule and military regimes, starting with the Rossi regime, to the regular deployment of the abundant coercive powers to sustain a facile unity. The consequences of such authoritarian disposition have been the nurturing of discontent over the years, which now found expression with the opening of the society by democratic tenets after the departure of the military. This shows that the artificial unity which the military sustained through authoritarian guidance and control is ephemeral because of its adventitious nature that is lacking deep roots. It is a well-established fact, as we have noted, that many ethnocultural and linguistic groups with varying territorial sizes, population distribution, productive, distributive, and exchange systems have been occupying the Nigerian landscape long before colonial intervention. Also, they were coexisting mutually in mutually respectable intergroup relations. Without doubt, there were wars and skirmishes. We can't rule that one out. Sometimes in order to repel or curtail or contain expansionist tendencies by overambitious groups. But attempts at creating states or mega states, especially in the southern part of the Niger area, have been regularly rebuffed. We remember the Yoruba Civil War, with all these other wars we know about them, and the resistance of people towards a mega state. There are several kingdoms in Yoruba land enjoying their autonomy who refuse to be pocketed by any big brother. Have been regularly, okay. However, in the socio-economic, but attempts at creating nations or mega states, especially in the southern part of Nigeria, have been regularly rebuffed. However, in the socio-economic sphere, there were intermarriages, cultural and cultural exchanges, trade and commerce on a regular basis across all the divides. It was the colonial invaders who consciously pitched the groups against each other so that there would not be a united front against their predatory agenda. And they proceeded thereafter to unilaterally bunch together the various groups whose relationship they had poisoned. They did not stop at this, but went ahead to initiate policies in the area of religion, culture, education, politics, and administration that were antithetical to nation building. For instance, although the amalgamation took place in 1914, it was not until 1946 that the two halves of the country were brought together for administrative purposes. Between 1914 of the amalgamation and 1946, both the Northern Protectorate and Southern Protectorate were still existing separately as administrative units. It was a deliberate contrivance to stifle united front. Let's go. Significantly, it was in the same year, that same 1946, that they brought them together administratively. It was in that same year that the Richard's Constitution, that which broke the nation into three unbalanced regions, mainly along primordial lines, came into operation. You can see the contradiction. These have since constituted fault lines, which unscrupulous leaders have been exploiting for selfish gains. The accompanying political intrigues, manipulation, and parochial links manifested profoundly at independence. And this must have forcibly struck Meredith 2011, when he aptly described Nigeria, especially in the period 1960 to 1972, as a house divided. This was an author in European, he said Nigeria was a house divided. But the truth of the matter is that there was no house or nation properly so in the first instance. Going by our previous expositions, for emphasis' sake, let me reiterate that no intended inhabitants of the house were carried along in its conception, design, structuring, and construction. As the situation was in Europe, where peace treaties were fundamental to the evolution and solidification of states, you can refer to Peace of Westphalia, Peace of Vienna, Peace of Versailles, which ended all the wars and so on. There should have been a sovereign conference of the disparate peoples where arrangements would have been reached on the establishment of the nation, the necessary legal framework, and avowed commitment to its sustenance. This would have served as the foundation of substructure, while impassioned response to genuine complaints or misgivings, accommodation of transformative challenges, and prompt conflict resolution would have served to retain and sustain the loyalty of stakeholders to the nation. It is hardly surprising, therefore, that the leaders of the emergent nation have been battling oftentimes insincerely with congenital and self-inflicted problems and seemingly intractable challenges of nation building. Prominent among such are ethnic and religious fault lines. In sum, nationhood in the real sense can only be attained in diverse geopolitical societies through genuine, painstaking, and deliberate efforts at integration to ensure identity congruence towards nation building. It is a process as observed in other climes, frequently animated by negotiations, consensual relationships, and gradual sublimation of primordial identities to a commonly held national identity. All these have been noticeably absent in Nigeria since it evolved. The collapse of the First Republic through military coup, the counter-coup that followed thereafter, and the outbreak of civil war within the first decades of Nigeria's nationhood in vote, clearly brought into bold relief, the cracks in the artificial political contraption, as well as the ineptitude of the leaders in managing the affairs of the delicate nation. This leads us to the collapse of the First Republic, military incursion into politics, and the outbreak of civil war. The nationalistic affectations that facilitated the decolonization process soon gave way at independence to parochialism, nepotism, and selfish orientation by the leaders. This is starkly exemplified by the acrimonious struggle by the preponderant regionally based political parties with strong primordial attachments. Northern People's Congress, NPC, National Council of Nigerian Citizens, NCNC, and Action Group AG, for exclusive control of the federal government in a no-holds-barred manner. Elections were worse. Government was irascible and intolerant of opposition, while the opposition elements were equally unrelenting, unsparing, and censorious. That is fourth finding. Civil disturbances and self-determination moves were brutally suppressed. Often we remember the civil riot 1962-1964, the Western Region situation 1965, and so these were the ones I'm just trying to capture the whole of the subtleties in a very subtle way. This ordinarily this should be a book in his own right. Yeah. Oftentimes by deploying military forces who had been playing such role under colonial treaty, they were using military to suppress all these self-determination moves, even as early as 1362. As if this was not enough, census exercises became numbers game, designed to confer numerical advantage on the privileged northern region in order to further advance its political fortunes at the expense of the other regions. And I have Ayodele as my authority here. All these stronger measures and manipulative strategies alienated several groups from any pan-Nigerian disposition, as they were made to feel like second-class citizens. The situation became so grave that 5 years into independence, the nation was already at the brink of disintegration. This played into the hands of military political adventurers who could also have been influenced not only by this internal situation, but also by military interventions in the political affairs of some neighboring countries. We recall by the time Nigeria had its first coup, about 10 or more coups are taking place even in West Africa sub-region. So there was a kind of contagion effect. I was saying this played into the hands of military political adventurers who could also have been influenced by military interventions in the political affairs of some neighboring countries. Although the January 15, 1960 coup was inconclusive, as the perpetrators were unable to have objective control of the entire nation, it was brutally executed as it featured the assassination of high-profile political leaders like the Prime Minister, Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the Minister of Finance, Chief Festus Okuche, Premier of Western Region, Chief Ladoke Akintola, Premier of Northern Region, Alhaji Amadu Bello, and some senior military officers of northern extraction mainly. The fact that the push was masterminded by a crop of Igbo military officers whose efforts were appropriated by an Igbo man, Major General Agui Ironsi, thereby becoming the residuary legatee of the coup. It's not somebody inheriting something like this, like write a will for somebody to inherit, sort of. So, yeah, thereby becoming the residuary legatee of the coup, raised suspicion and apprehension. Because most of the casualties were from the north. The organizers and authors of the coup and actors were mainly General Ironsi's subsequent actions after becoming the head of state really smacked of a hidden ethnic agenda. Not only did he refrain from punishing the coup plotters, preferring to put them in protective custody, protective in court, he also surrounded himself with Igbo technocrats as advisors. Furthermore, Igbo officers were disproportionately favored in the promotions in the army. He also promulgated Decree 33, which abolished all political parties and socio-cultural groups that had been serving as platform for the aggregation of the people's views. There was also Decree 34, which abolished the federal arrangement. This is where the trouble started from Decree 34. There was also Decree 34, which abolished the federal arrangement, substituted it with a unitary government, and unified the regional civil services into a national civil service, with the potential for cross-country mobility of labor through transfers and appointments. Again, this was often used as instrument of punishment against real or passive enemies. These precipitate moves were widely viewed with fear and misgivings across the country, especially in the north, which had just suffered the loss of the cream of our political and military elite. This is understandable given the paucity of educated elites there, which would have put its people in a position of disadvantage in the scheme of things at the national level if the decrees were to come into operation. This was enough recipe for a counter-coup masterminded by junior military officers of northern extraction as a reprisal for the earlier coup and to redress the situation brought to life by Ironsi's regime. It was also a bloody exercise resulting in the assassination of General Ironsi, Colonel Adekunle Fajimi, governor of the Western Group of Provinces, who was hosting General Ironsi at the time the coup took place, as well as several Igbo officers. This formalized violence as a means of attaining power, as subsequent events will prove. The counter coup threw up Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, a northern officer, as the new head of state, to the chagrin of Lieutenant Colonel Ojukwu, governor of the Eastern Group of Officers, who blatantly refused to recognize Gowon as head of state, ostensibly because he still had seniors, although from the south, above him in the army. This was at individual level. But at the national level, the failure, or is it unwillingness, of Gowon to stem the tide of the pogrom, that is mass killing, directed against Igbo elements in the north, even after the redemptive counter coup, made Ojukwu to order all Igbos to return home, and subsequently opt for secession from Nigeria to form a new nation known as Republic of Biafra. This development inexorably led to a fratricidal civil war that claimed millions of lives in the 30 months for which it lasted. Ojukwu was said to have spawned, I'm quoting Meredith here, all attempts at compromise, rejecting concessions offered by Gowon and the federal government that would have given the Eastern region virtual autonomy. That's Meredith. Without doubt, the embers of mutual distrust, initially ignited by the colonial policy of divide and rule, and fanned subsequently by cutthroat competition among the ethnic groups, have now become fully blown, threatening the corporate existence of the polity. It will seem as if General Gowon learned some useful lessons from the incidents of the Civil War, given some of the policies he initiated ostensibly to heal old wounds and facilitate the reintegration of the Igbo into Nigeria as bona fide citizens. First, he declared that there was no victor and no vanquished, in spite of the defeat of the Biafrans by the federal forces, because it was a war between brothers. Second, he followed this up with the 3 R's policy, that is, reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reintegration, reconstruction of war ruins, rehabilitation and reintegration of the Igbo into a united Nigeria. And third, some cross-cultural devices that could seemingly reinforce efforts at integration were evolved and operated. These were the National Sports Festival, National Festival of Arts and Culture, and National Youth Service Corps scheme. All these were too cosmetic to ensure enduring unity, as their implementation was often dogged by corruption and manipulation by compromised state officials, depicting distinct lack of patriotism, as observed elsewhere. Even the NYC scheme, which was initiated in 1973 and lived up to expectation up to the late 1980s, eventually succumbed to corruption and maladministration. But more important, the vexatious issue of graduate unemployment after the service year took the shine off the scheme. However, it is significant to note that the ethnic antagonisms were minimized in the 1970s due to a combination of factors like war weariness, people are already tired of war, some government policies as highlighted above the ones I mentioned, and more important, the military government's iron grip. This is the most important. The military government's iron grip on the nation through centuries federalism, in which the center was made strong and preponderant over faithless, that is powerless states. Subsequent successive military regimes also continued with the carrot and stick approach. Thus, while sustaining and even reinforcing authoritarianism, policies like creation of states and local governments, quota system, and federal character were formulated and deployed ostensibly to allay fears of marginalization by ensuring balance in political appointments, recruitment into military and security agencies, and even admission to public institutions. Without doubt, these policies on the surface appeared to be patriotically motivated and genuinely intended to give every ethnic group a sense of belonging. This would have been so in a polity led by committed nationalistic leaders presiding over balanced structures, that is states and local government, where equity and social justice are securely emplaced. Unfortunately, these policies and devices were regularly manipulated by many military rulers to promote subnational interest in order to secure their regimes while putting forth nationalistic affectations. Religious favoritism also came into the mix, leading to ethnic and religious sentiments, coalescing to become a serious bane of the nation. Nigeria's membership of the Organization of Islamic Conference, in spite of its professed secular sectors, is a case in point. This has been breeding intolerance and mutual antagonism between the predominantly Muslim North and largely Christian South in their perennial struggles for political and economic ascendance. This has also provided fertile ground for religious extremists to assert their influence in unwholesome manners. And it has finally resulted in Nigerian nation becoming a boiling cauldron, over which a lid had to be securely placed regularly to avert the possibility of a spillover. That is a break in the politics. I got this from Joseph, Bishop Joseph, 1991. As far back as then. But the situation is worse now. The military rulers with their abundant coercive powers managed to do this through strict authoritarian control and violent clampdown on separatist agitations and human rights activists. Yago Yaju Akeola 2019 succinctly captured a lot of Nigerian military dispensations in the following words. The incursion of the military into politics greatly distorted Nigerian federal arrangements and laid the foundation for the promotion of individuals over state institutions. These are the emphasis. Promotion of individual over state institutions. Unlike in the US, you remember the case of Trump. State institutions triumph over some personality. That is why we have vibrant state institutions. But what we are saying here is that what we are saying here, which I agree, is that the incursion of the emerging political leadership after the collapse of the First Republic became self-serving, inexperienced, and the influence of the military or the political class was negative, especially in the undemocratic nature of the electoral process during successive democratization since the 1990s. Military ethos and unwholesome influence permeated the civil society, such that under democratic dispensations since 1999, when the military handed over power to civilians, violence has been dominating the electoral process, inadvertently producing incompetent and captive rulers. The situation could not have been different, given the fact that political parties continue to be dominated by retired, politically active military officers with strong primordial disposition. It was therefore relatively easy for retired generals to either become civilian president and through civilian approach. And as it happened in 1999 to 2007, that's the first story. And 2015 to the present, you know, we are also going to or influence the election of military stooges as presidents as stopgap measures, as we witnessed in 2008 to 2015. That's before recapturing state power. The heartless generality of the people whose votes hardly count are therefore constrained to restrict to their filial wound, that is the ethnic configurations, and turn to militants in the defense of their ethnic interests. In the Southwest geopolitical zone, the Udua People's Congress obviously came into prominence. While in the Southeast, we have the MASOP and IPOP, those officially proscribed, that has been very active in demanding for secession from Nigeria. There are also groups like the MEND in the Niger Delta, the APC in the North, and so on. New groups are rapidly evolving in recent times to complement the old ones, especially in other areas like the Middle Belt. This development has been adding new dimensions to hitherto existing security challenges, like armed robbery, inter and intra-ethnic conflicts, kidnapping, terrorism, rampaging food and harassment, and banditry. Unemployment and abject poverty are spawning a large pool of malcontents who are ready recruits for violent separatist agitations, especially since peaceful demonstrations are severely contained, as the instance of the October 2020 ENSA protest by Nigerian youth indicate, and have the Washington Post 2020 as an authority. While dialogue towards meaningful constitutional arrangements are frequently hijacked by power elites to serve their selfish interests. That is why many people are not interested in all this national assembly movement and asking for amendment. When people are asking for the constitution that is not tainted by military of a hold up. Insecurity has become all pervasive, rendering the country unsafe for the people and investors local and foreign. While often threatening to unleash complete disintegration of the nation. The capabilities of security agents, military, paramilitary, and police have been so tasked that they sometimes appear overwhelmed. Nothing illustrates this situation better than the Boko Haram terrorist groups' grip on the large expanse of Nigerian territory in the Northeast since 2009 in their bid to create a sovereign Islamic state out of the nation. And while this has been going on, kidnapping for ransom by motley groups of non-discrete bandits, targeting soft targets like school children, religious personages, and hapless travelers, have been proliferating virtually unchecked. Those which would have been assisting security agencies in circulating on patriotic and criminal activities through information have apparently been alienated from the state, which they are now inclined to view as irrelevant and in fact an imposition. Rather, the more desperate ones are banding together demanding for secession, while the moderate ones are asking for restructuring of the polity in such a way and manner that every group will have a sense of belonging without coercion. Thus, there are discordant, mournful notes across the nation that need to be attended to impartially in order to evolve the nation properly, so to which all the constituents will hold allegiance without feeling shortchanged in any form. Calls for the convocation of national conference were frequently involved by military rulers, understandably given the autocratic nation. The report of the one that took place in 2014 under President Jonathan's government, where a lot of vexatious issues were reportedly trashed out and comfortable agreements reached by the representatives of the people have not been released by the President Buhari administration as suspected. Rather, as the situation was under military regime, selective constitutional reviews or amendments are seen as better alternatives by the power agents. Experience has shown that this could easily be manipulated to serve ulterior motives. Tinkering with an unpopular military imposed constitution is not considered by the majority as a credible alternative to guarding them to directly involve the new, mutually agreeable people-oriented constitution. The people's representatives in the National Assembly are not trusted for this kind of assignment because of their perceived self-seeking, corrupt, and compromising disposition. Then what is to be done? In this kind of situation of trust deficit, with the needs of widespread frustration and experience. This leads us to mending the cracks, a critical analysis of options. Mending the cracks, critical analysis of options. And this is the cross of matter. This is what people must have been waiting for. I've been saying a lot of things about theories and so on. And what is we have? And this is where I am. By way of recapitulation, so that we don't forget what I'm saying, because they are fundamental to advancing suggestions. Before going, discuss has shown that the cracks are those issues, orientations, and dispositions that will lead to disintegration of the Nigerian nation if they are left unattended to, either as a result of incompetence, nonchalance, or a mistaken belief that they will fizzle out with time. And that such issues and their deleterious impacts on national integration and nation have been there from 1914, when the nation was put together through selfish, impious, and imperious experimentation. They, that is the cracks, have been widening ever since as a result of their mismanagement and been abandoned to fester in order to serve ulterior motives. Popular opinion concerning the future of Nigeria can be categorized broadly into two. First, though the state is failing, it can still be redeemed. That is one. And second, some believe that the state has failed irredeemably and that they are better off bailing out of the sinking boat by seceding. Without doubt, given the present state of Nigeria and the leaders' attitudes, oftentimes bordering on nonchalance, it will require a human effort to sustain this nationhood in corporate group debt. A lot of suggestions have been offered by public spirited people across various devices and institutions towards mending the cracks. Those who believe that the grass can be mended have been talking of restructuring of the polity, devolution of power, physical federalism, resource control, good governance, and strengthening state institutions for public good. While some have even gone as far as calling for the military to seize power on a temporary basis and put in place a transitional government after taking care of the vexatious issues. And some believe that all hopes have been lost in redemption efforts, and that the next course of action is therefore a peaceful breakup through dialogue and symbolic demonstrations. Some others in this category will subscribe to secession through violence or war if needed. I will now proceed to interrogate these options, not necessarily in the order in which they are listed, as I prefer to start from the last suggestion and options. But it will be strongly emphasized here and now that there is no quick fixed solution to the multifarious problems bedeviling the nation, and definitely no shortcuts because of their deeply ingrained fundamental nature. Now to the options. A breakup in whatever form, through dialogue or war, does not offer a guarantee that the problems that warranted such will not come up again in the new nations given the winner takes all disposition for the leaders, as well as their entrenched proclivity towards marginalization of minorities and the less privileged. For instance, in the Southwest region, where there is an ongoing agitation for secession through creation of the republic by some groups, not all ethnic or sub-ethnic confederations within Yoruba country are sold on their deal. The latent fear of marginalization of minority and less influential groups, based on their lived experience, lived in the past, cannot be dismissed properly. It is instructive to know that during the First Republic, the Ekiti, the Desha, Akokos, and the minority groups were not comfortable with the real and perceived overarching attitudes and grasping tendencies of the Eda, the Jebus, and Oyo. Now that they have some measure of autonomy, I'm not too sure that they would trade that off for enslavement again. It is also worth recalling that the defunct Republic of Biafra was sabotaged by minority enemies who benefited from the state creation exercise done by Gowon on the eve of the outbreak of the Civil War. Every major ethnic group in Nigeria, and this is very important, every major ethnic group in Nigeria has critical elements of a typically diverse political configuration, which have been nursed to grow exponentially over time, while the overarching collective attitude, that is how Yoruba, is ostensibly fascinating. It is presumed fruit of affinity. It's a horse. It's a horse. There is no that kind of affinity that is a horse. There are people who are almost but not talk. in their own conception. The military option is totally out of the equation in my record, based on antecedents. Experience has shown that if you give the military a niche in the political space, they will take a mile. Recent happenings in Myanmar, former bomber. Late last year, the military took place there, removed the president, the woman president there. They said they are having international, within a short time, they have turned into military. And Mali, near their house there, Mali. Mali's case is also very, very important. Support this observation. And here in Nigeria, most military juntas that seize power usually profess to be on the short-term sanitizing redemption mission. before handing over power to civilians. But we know now that this was a ruse to secure legitimacy and popular acceptance before deploying other strategies for prolonged political power control. Some of the proponents of the military transitional government option are probably over-romanticizing the abortive coup of Majorca in 1990. In the maiden speech of the coups, that is the coup of 1990, after the usual nationalistic affectation, that is pretensions, announced the excision of some states from the northern part of the country, in the belief that the people from those states have been cornering power exclusively at national level to serve parochial ends. This step was conceived by them as an attempt to liberate the Nigerian nation from the stranglehold of perceived state capitals. Whether this is true or not is not the issue here. My concern is with the unilateral and drastic nature of their course of action, which quite understandably caused apprehension when the reality struck people that whoever or whatever does not fit into their plans could be similarly treated later. Maybe you didn't get the message of person across the plan. If in your making broadcast you are saying you are removing certain things, it doesn't tally into your operation. That is the first broadcast. And now if you settle down in office after 1 month, who knows what is going to happen? They will just wake up one day and say, okay, this other area too, they are not cooperating, we remove them. So after they settled down, people now began to see that this is a dangerous mission. If it is allowed, it can lead to anything. That is what I'm emphasizing. In any case, military rule was being discredited already at this point, worldwide. Many countries of the third world were already moving in the direction of popular democracy as from the 1980s. In what authority 1990 referred to as the third wave of democratization. The general belief since then is that the worst form of democracy is preferable to even the best or the most benevolent authoritarian regime as symbolized by military. However, a signal lesson from that tragic incident, that is that 1990, there was a lesson that escaped comfortably or conveniently escaped the memory of others. However, a signal lesson from that tragic incident, that is the 1990 abortive, which the political elites have failed to grasp, is that no one is born to rule Nigeria ad infinitum. Ad infinitum means forever. No one is born to rule Nigeria ad infinitum. This predilection towards exclusivity, fueled obviously by greed, has not allowed meaningful integration to take place. I now turn my attention to an interrogation of restructuring as espoused by the proponents. As alluded to previously, the term restructuring has been interpreted in diverse ways by different proponents based on their immediate concerns. Nostalgic feelings about a glorious past, talking about First Republic and its constitution, and political economy permutations concerning how national resources distribution can be made more equitable. Towards this end, some believe that more states and local governments will be created to achieve structural balance, and that political power must be decentralized to invest these tiers of government with reasonable measure of autonomy needed in a truly federal arrangement. But regrettably, and I want you to know this, but regrettably, not much is being said about how to evolve and project patriotic, detribalized, and committed leaders at the national level. This may be as a result of deliberate attempts to de-emphasize and reduce the power of the federal government vis-a-vis the federating states. And it's as if I'm making an excuse for it, but it could have been. It can be recalled that in the First Republic, 1960 to 1966, the federating regions had a large measure of autonomy over their political structures, institutions, policies, internally generated revenues, and were led by resourceful, committed, and public-spirited leaders. Such leaders judiciously manage the abundant resources that are put to them through the implementation of the principle of derivation as enshrined in the Constitution. They were therefore able to embark on massive infrastructural development, populist-oriented educational and health programs on a healthy, competitive basis. But it was not all smooth sailing. There were still serious incidences of corruption. That is in 1966, the First Republic. Serious incidences of corruption, marginalization of minorities, political intolerance, fractional politics, electoral malpractices, that is rigging, thuggery, and arson at regional levels. The meddlesome activities of the NPC and CNC coalition government at the center in the affairs of the regions in determined efforts to extend their spheres of influence and control further created crises of serious magnitude as it did especially in the Western region. This goes to show that no matter how well conceived, I think this is very important. This goes to show that no matter how well conceived and patriotically motivated a constitution is, it is the operators that will determine its functionality in terms of implementation. This was one of the main plans of Vanguard editorial, newspaper editorial of May 31, 2021, titled Revisiting the 1963 Constitution. You can sit down and read. That was the major plank of the argument, which I backed. And truly, the much touted 1963 Constitution could not save the nation from avoidable crisis and near breakdown. The situation we played into the hands of military political adventurers who proceeded thereafter to proscribe the Constitution and rule by decrees. Not only this, they proceeded from then on under different regimes to centralize political power, revenue allocation, institutions, health, police, educational institutions, and so on. Structures and even mass media that were hitherto under regional control. The frequent haphazard creation of states from the old regions further whittled down regional influences while consolidating the military's hold on state power at the same time. The states were now reduced to feckless and subservient subordinates in a centrist, practically unitarian federal arrangement reminiscent of the military's traditional command structure, in which order comes from above and unquestioning obedience from below. The now entrenched, skilled revenue allocation in favor of the federal military government, FMG at the center, further debased the federation units or units. Unfortunately, this situation has persisted virtually in this form to date. This is to be expected because the military still exercised a lot of influence in the civilian democratic dispensations through the involvement of retired officers, permeation of military ethos in the civil society over the years, and the unholy alliance. I think this one is also important. And the unholy alliance between pliant political officers, that is, people who are easily compromised, pliant political elites, and militicians of oblique local reference to military political adventurers. That I used that something in an international conference in Gambia in 2019. Militicians, and it was people saw some good reason what I was talking about. And this military removed their khaki to become who put their khaki on that without using it, putting their brother on top. This could have been a result of helpless resignation to fate. That is those people who are now in cohort with them. They could have been doing this because of hopeless resignation to fate, or pandering to a selfish defeatist philosophy of if you cannot beat them, join them. How be it? The reality has now dawned on the generality of the people, especially the politically conscious, that whoever controls the government at the center will have access to abundant human resources, human and material, and so could dispense favors, patronages as he or she pleases to loyalists, political and ethnic base, party affiliates, and their parochial reference groups. We should not be surprised, therefore, that the politics to capture power at the center has progressively assumed violent, acrimonious, do or die character in the safe knowledge that the end will justify the means. Aggrieved colleagues and pliant, formidable opponents will easily be pocketed through well-established, intricate patronage system or coerced into silence by state security apparatus. In all of this, the masses merely receive token attention until election periods, when their votes will be needed to validate the power in these political machinations. Then they are wooed and cajoled with promises which they hardly feel obligated to honor. The case in point is the burning issue of restructuring, which has popular appeal across large segments of the nation. The ruling All Progressive Congress APC latched onto this apparently popular matter and included it in its manifesto in the race to capture state power in 2015. Thus far, nothing could be seen in its performance or inclination to suggest genuine interest in restructuring of whatever shape or description. This is one of the reasons why the more impatient are calling for secession, while the optimists are proposing the devolution of power to and resource control by the federal states. In practical reality, education, health, power, that is electricity, water resources, policing are expected to revert fully to the states, as well as agricultural productions, road construction, and sports development, most of which have been rendered comatose under federal government's control. It is also being canvassed widely that political offices should be made less attractive by drastic reduction of emoluments attached to them, and that a unicameral legislature at the center will not only be cost-saving, but also less cumbersome in operational effectiveness. Legislators too are not expected to be paid humongous monthly salaries, but just transport and sitting allowances, as the situation was before the military first intervened. Let me come with a personal example here. My father happened to be a member of House of Rep between 1954 and 1959 in Lagos. And he was at the same time the principal of Methodist Teacher Training College in Fakekiti. He was only going to Lagos for legislative activities 3 days in a week and come back to his job. And when he left politics, he retired as a teacher at the college in 1971. Had his job, everybody had their job. Awolowo was gratefully employed, had a vibrant law library and law practice and so on. But what do we have now? We now have professional, sit-tight politicians who are some that are graduating from councillorship to they are eyeing the topmost without doing anything. And that is why they have become parasites on the nation. And until this is done, until they are made, we have a unicameral legislative activity, as well as people not being just paid for sitting allowance and transport. That is. It is so that rather than seeing their election as an avenue for enrichment, only those who are genuinely ready to serve the nation who aspire to such positions. It is widely believed that a new constitution put together by the representatives of the people in the National Conference will serve to document and give legal force to these lofty ideas, thereby staving off the imminent breakdown of the nation. Yeah, this leads me now to the concluding remarks. From the foregoing discourse and exegesis, the following can be distilled by way of summary. First, the idea of a Nigerian nation was not well conceived and so poorly executed by the colonial masters whose rapacious intentions beclouded their sense of justice and fair play. After the unilateral imposition, they initiated policies that did more to keep the people divided within the newly created geopolitical contraction. This was to ensure that there would not be a united front against their selfish desires. Thus, the division, that is cracks, have been there at the mission. Second, rather than correct this obvious anomaly in good time, emergent leaders of the constituent group preferred to use their political platforms to service parochial interests, either in the regions or at the center. Military political power usurpers who pretended to be apolitical and so nationalistic were worse off. It was the outbreak of civil war within the first decade of independence that served as the first reality check. Even at that, the preponderant military leaders relied more on force and arbitrariness, with a sprinkling of seemingly unifying albeit cosmetic programs to achieve some measure of facile unity. Needless to say that this cannot suffice in a deeply divided polity like Nigeria. Third, also the strange federal arrangement, which is operationally centrist, introduced by the military in order to maintain its stronghold on the nation, and which has been curiously retained and sustained by civilian democratic governments, have not been helping matters. Without doubt, its stifling nature does not give room for states' autonomy and thereby killing local initiatives, while inadvertently facilitating exclusive politics. Whoever manages to capture power at the center controls the destiny of the nation virtually exclusively. Thus, marginalized groups at any point in time are usually wary of sublimating their primordial loyalty to a nation that is perceived as not fair to them. Fourth, quite expected, the Nigerian nation has been contending with numerous challenges, congenital and self-inflicted, constantly fueled by inept leadership, bad government, weak and pliable institutions, inadequate and poor infrastructure, unemployment, and distinct lack of social security and welfare programs. Corruption at virtually all levels of government has been depleting resources that could be made available to ameliorate the situation. Consequently, cost of living has been skyrocketing, while standards of living have remained abysmally low, thereby replicating endemic poverty. The critical situation has offered a fertile ground for criminal activities by different shades of malcontents to proliferate. These have been manifesting in the forms of terrorism, banditry, armed robbery, kidnapping, intra and inter-ethnic conflagrations, indigenous versus settlers palaver, rampaging Fulani harassment, confrontations with farmers, electronically aided advanced food frauds, and cultism. Fifth, the magnitude and widespread nature of some of these challenges highlighted above are almost overwhelming, oftentimes threatening to bring the nation down. In fact, insecurity generally has been having some deleterious impact on mobility, agroeconomic ventures, local and foreign investments, virtually turning the country into a pariah state. There is therefore a crying need to rescue the nation from existential irrelevance and possible disintegration. 6, suggestions and options have been profiled from different quarters, which can be broadly subsumed under 2 major categories: restructuring and secession. Based on my critical analysis of each category alongside their variants, it is my submission that restructuring, with the clearly identified and agreed upon components, is more tolerable given the reality of the Nigerian situation now. All the more reason that it is potentially less disruptive, more practicable, and holds up the promise of peaceful resolution of vexatious issues, which are not guaranteed to disappear, even in imaginary breakaway nations. The failed attempt by the Igbo to actualize the creation of a new nation of Biafra out of Nigeria through this pathway between 1967 and 1970, even when Nigeria was still in its infancy. Nigeria became independent in 1960. The war broke out in 1967. Even at this stage of infancy, Biafra could not break it. So is it now that it will be very easy? I don't think it is easy, except we want to sacrifice before necessary. In other words, my position is very clear from here, that I am for restructuring, but all the components will have to be properly defined, agreed upon, and it will form the basics of the constitution, people-driven constitution, not elitist constitution. However, there is a compelling need for a national conference on the representative of the diverse group and peoples, where agreement will be reached on the structure of the country, the relationship between the center and the federating units, resource control and distribution, and sundry issues in contention. The report emanating from such exercise will then constitute the basics of a new constitution that will reflect the people's conception of the nation of their choice, and not an imposition like previous military midwifed constitutions. Thereafter, the people, that is the electorate, will have to consciously elect committed, detribalized, and patriotic leaders to drive their vision in manifestly inclusive manners. Obviously, this will take some time before the desired objectives can be accomplished. We must remember that the often celebrated advanced nations of this world, the ones that I mentioned earlier, took time to arrive at their current enviable positions. And yet, they are still not relenting in building their nation to higher standards, although in mutually inclusive manner, not allowing the politicians alone to face the task. Academics, businessmen, servicemen, technocrats, jurists, media practitioners, organized labor unions, reputable elder statesmen, religious bodies, youth organizations, and student bodies are actively involved over there. For the Nigerian project under discussion, we do not expect anything less if the dream of a united nation is to be fully realized. Chairman, Provost Chairman, distinguished guests on the live item, another secretary, here present, kindly permit me to pause here so that the debate can continue in the designated panels. Thank you all for that. Thank you very much, sir. Sincerely appreciate this presentation. Well, while the program was on, a number of people walked in, and one of them has already walked out. But I will need to recognize him because he was the one that handed over to the first female dean of the School of Art and Social Sciences, Dr.
Dayo Falade. He has just walked down. He has just stepped out now. I also do not know whether my team will permit me to introduce one woman that walked in. Was a retiree from INEC, Dr. Mrs. Ade Kombi. Am I right, ma'am? Please rise up. Maybe you will take this message to INEC. Thank you very much. You're already retired, but I know you're not tired yet. Nigeria. Well, guys, I highlighted a number of things, and I don't know whether time will permit me to begin to list them. Just go through the soft copy of this paper that will be made available to us soonest. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think to save time, because of the various plenary sessions that we'll be having after now, let me call on my own Vice Dean. Yes, my own Vice Dean, Alhaji S.S. Suba, to give us the vote of thanks. And the chairman of the conference committee should be getting ready to give announcement if there's any. We will make that, we will either pass that to me or come over to make it. You are welcome, sir.
Yeah, I stand as because it is Almighty masses of each and every one of us sitting here today as we use our discuss I did the provost, the deputy that I just left, then my date, who is the owner of School of Arts and Science. Then our father, that has got to write paper now. Everybody enjoyed it. In fact, without having this paper on you, discover that none of us thought. In fact, even if you want to see, you discover that big grammar when it comes.
Those online, they are sending so much.
Yeah. So if you want to slap, if you want to speak, that big grammar when they come, they snap you and change out. So I appreciate you very much. People appreciate you. For this, not only the grammar, but also more of the grammars there. I think I wanted to visit a dictionary, but unfortunately, time didn't permit me to do so. So I will do that when I get to my office. So thank you very much. Not only that, our papa highlighted so many things that when we eliminate from them, we discover that there are risks that either causes our problems in Nigeria, and the solutions too, if they are well thought, we discover that it makes a clear difference. So we thank we thank our conference committee that they have not misusing us to give us this little paper present. So we thank our papa very much. So how I wish I become one of your students. Unfortunately, the time has come. Because you are great this year. I would have come to the history department in order to become one of the students. So thank you very much. So, and I actually commend my team for this time around. I don't think that perhaps has been our paper center before. So we are doing that. I've not been involved like that. No. So we thank Baba very much. You did this one very well and wonderful.
into this conference because we have extended a lot on it. The distance wherever it is. So we thank our chairman, conference chairman, that is our MC, the globe grammar, probably it is historians that normally globe grammar like that. The globe grammar like my papa too. Almighty God will continue to assist. We are as well as thank our director of MIS, Dr. Kelly. The Almighty God assist. We thank all of you that are sitting here. We actually thank the participants who actually participate virtually. So thank them to Almighty God. So I get the score. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. My own vice team, I love JSS Subaru. When you hear the name, I want to think about so many things. That is what will be chief demand, like I said earlier. The next item on the program is announcements, and my chairman has passed some of the announcements to me. The plenary session will be starting by 2 p.m. And the link has been sent to us or has been given on our platform. Here and there, if you need the link again, you can equally request that the link be sent to you. But we must all be online by 1:45 p.m. so that we can feature at the various parallel sessions. We have A, B, C, D, E, F sessions, and we have various chairmen who are already aware of the various sessions. We have Dr. T. Ekundayo, who will be chairmaning the section A, Dr. J. Wakimbi, who will be in charge of section B, Dr. T. Omlade, who will be in charge of section C, and Dr. Mrs. A. F. Udunuga, who will be in charge of section D. Dr. D.Z. Olufaimo will be in charge of section E, and Dr. Obi Olanusi will be in charge of section F. Now, the various sessions will be going on parallel at the same time in various locations. We are using those two locations as our control rooms in case there are hitches here and there, so that no chairman will be stranded because of this bad network that we have all over the place. So section A, group A will be having their control room at the Vice Dean's office. That is the office of Alhaji S.S. Zubaru. Section group B will be having their session at the school board room here, and they will be having their control room at the school board room here. Dr. T. Omalade will be in charge of group C, that will be having their control room in geography workshop. Dr. Mrs. A. Odunuga will be in charge of group D, that will be having their control room in music studio. And Dr. D.Z. Olufaimo will be in charge of group E, parallel group E, that will be having their control room in economics department. And Dr. Obi Olanusi will be in charge of group F, that will be having their control room in social studies department. We have attached different rapporteurs, vice chairmen, and technical crew to each of these places. Who will be there? Dr. Akinlo will be in group A. Mr. T.O. Ajani will be with group B. Mrs. E.O. Akinfisoye will be in group C as a technical officer. Mr. B.J. Babarinde will be the group G, and Mr. B.J. Omotayotu will be with group E, and Mr. K.C. Babatunde. Is it K.C.? Well, I don't know whether it is the Babatunde that I know. If it is the one that I know, it should be F.E. But if it is the one that I don't know, this is K.C. The one I know is F.E. Olajimi Enoch. Will be in charge of F. That's the group with Dr. Lanusi that will be located in social studies workshop. These are the group of people that will be in charge, the technical crew that will be in charge of various sections. Given the time that we no longer have anymore, I think I saw Dr. Mrs. Alao online in the group, and I saw Dr. G.K. Odetayo and a host of other people that are watching and being part of the program. I can also see Dr. Bunade in the house here. Maybe he walked in while I've finished identifying people. Thank you very much for coming and being part of this. Mrs. OKG Bloma is also in the house. I don't know whether there's anybody I'm missing now that is presently here. Okay, the man from the French department, Mr. Dr. Fascinu from Department of French. Thank you for joining us. We sincerely appreciate you. Mr. Itodo is also in the house. I don't know whether there's anybody that I've seen that I've not been recognized. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this wonderful program. And thank you because you also join us by 1:45. 1:45 so that you can sort out all your technical problems because 200 dots, the plenaries will pick up. And then we begin to take papers. I think we have 10 in my own group. I don't know whether there's any group where they have less than 10. We have. So that means we are going to be having more than 50 papers going on to get simultaneously in various locations. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can begin to think of singing the national anthem and the college anthem as we bring the program to a close. Just before we take that, I'm going to be welcoming Mr. C.A. Busagi to give us the closing prayer in the Muslim way. Mr. Busagi, please. Or do I say Alaji Busagi because I knew when he went to Mecca. So, anyhow I say it. Thank you very much. Maybe you come over here, sir. Maybe you come over here, sir.
Bluetooth now.
Almighty Allah, thank you for the successful completion of this that save us, guide us, and lead us to successful education in Allah's name I pray.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
I think I can stop the video now.
Please let me to tell you
I think I can stop the
this is an historic picture we are going to be taking. Okay. Sorry.